Welcome to HCR's Mitchell-Lama Cooperative Board Training Webinar. This webinar will provide basic information for new boards or new board members to broadly discuss the purpose of a cooperative board member and what it means to sit on the board of a Mitchell-Lama. We will also discuss the structure of a Mitchell-Lama housing company, the roles and responsibilities of each area, and organizational oversight. I am John, an associate attorney within our Office of Legal Affairs. Also presenting this webinar will be George, a housing management representative, and Denise, a supervisor within the Office of Integrated Housing Management. We are very excited to present this training and hope that both new and seasoned board members watch this presentation in order to brush up on old topics and perhaps learn something new. Let's get started. This section of the webinar will explain the basics of a Mitchell-Lama Housing Cooperative's legal environment and how that affects a board member. What is a cooperative? The principles of cooperative living began 175 years ago and revolve around the concept of democratic control. One apartment, one vote, regardless of shares held. Each household holds shares in the corporation. Each household is a party to an occupancy agreement which sets forth the terms for living in the cooperative, and the shares give the household the right to reside in a unit. Each unit has one vote. The function of the board of directors is to run the housing company and determine all housing company policy. These policies are then generally administered by the managing agent. Board members are not free to do whatever they want, either individually or collectively as a board. All actions of the board must comply with certain governing laws and policies. Board members must be aware of the following. The governing law is laid out in Article 2 of the New York State Private Housing Finance Law, also referred to as the PHFL, and the Business Corporation Law. The New York State Division of Housing and Community Renewal's, DHCR for short, statutory authority to administer the PHFL for Mitchell-Lama project. DHCR's Mitchell-Lama regulations, which are laid out in the 9 NYCRR 1700 series. DHCR's rules and policies, issued through Housing Management Memoranda Bulletins, HMB memos, which serve as mandatory policies that all Mitchell-Lamas must follow. The requirement that Mitchell-Lamas comply with all other state and local laws and codes. All corporations, including Mitchell-Lama co-ops, have certain corporate documents that they must follow. The Certificate of Incorporation, which was drafted upon the cooperative's inception and filed with the New York State Department of State. The cooperative's bylaws, which set forth rules by which the housing company governs its affairs. Board members must be familiar with these laws, regulations, rules, and governing documents. It's important to note that New York State DHCR and New York City's Department of Housing Preservation and Development, HPD, both administer Mitchell-Lama programs, but they are completely separate. A Mitchell-Lama is overseen by one or the other, but not both. While they both follow the PHFL, each program has different regulations and rules that they must follow. This slide shows the organizational structure of a DHCR Mitchell-Lama cooperative development. We will go into more detail in the following slides. The Board of Directors makes large policy decisions and communicates them to the managing agent. The managing agent handles the day-to-day responsibilities of the Mitchell-Lama cooperative. The housing company answers to its shareholders, the residents. The Board of Directors hires the housing company's professionals such as house counsel, certified public accountant, and landlord-tenant attorney to handle residency legal issues. Ultimately, the housing company, its Board of Directors, and managing agents are overseen by DHCR. Shareholders are the residents of the Mitchell-Lama Cooperative Housing Company. Upon moving into the development, the resident of record, also known as the shareholder, is issued shares that memorialize the resident's ownership stake in the cooperative corporation. Shareholders are entitled to vote at the annual meetings. Shareholders can serve on the board of directors in accordance with the qualifications set forth in the bylaws. Shareholders are entitled to receive the annual audited financial report of the corporation.
What is a managing agent? A managing agent is hired by the housing company through a managing agent agreement. This agreement is subject to DHCR approval and is annually renewed or terminated. The managing agent is responsible for the daily operation of the corporation by executing the policies of the board. Some of the duties and functions of the managing agent are collection of carrying charges and/or surcharges, completing the annual income affidavit and verification procedures, maintenance of the automated wait list, or AWL, of applicants for apartments to assure prompt resale, and conduct the application process for new residents. Hiring and supervising all workers. Cleanliness and maintenance of the property. Soliciting contracts and bids for major purchase of supplies, repairs and maintenance of equipment, hiring vendors for work around the property. The board hires the professional staff, such as the manager or managing agent, the attorney, and the certified public accountant, and receives reports and guidance from them. These professionals work for the cooperative, the housing company. They do not represent you in your individual capacity or for individual matters. The housing company attorney performs many roles, such as drafting and review of contracts, drafting commercial leases, and advising on all legal matters. The certified public accountant prepares certified annual financial statements, advises on financial matters, and advises the board on the need for revenue. In other words, increasing the carrying charges by applying to DHCR for a budget-based rental determination. On important matters, it is generally advisable to get these professional staff reports in written form. The board should give serious consideration to the advice received from these professionals, since their experience and expertise in their special fields can aid the board greatly in its discussions. The manager should be requested to attend board meetings regularly, and the attorney and the accountant at least periodically.
Let's talk a little more about the Division of Housing and Community Renewal, also known as DHCR. DHCR is the New York State agency in charge of administering and enforcing the New York State Private Housing Finance Law, further known as the PHFL. The PHFL is what governs all Mitchell-Lamas, co-ops, and rentals. As noted earlier, DHCR publishes regulations to oversee the administration of Mitchell-Lama program. DHCR also issues Housing Management Bureau memos that act as binding policy, which advises Mitchell-Lamas on how to operate. DHCR retains administrative oversight of all aspects of the housing company's finances, operations, and admissions. Some of the many DHCR responsibilities include reviewing the housing company's budget and issuing rent orders, reviewing and approving contracts, reviewing and approving managing agent agreements and managing agent fee increases, making office and site visits, and attending meetings as needed. Ultimately, reviewing and approving all apartment applications for admissions, transfers, and succession. So, what is a director? Directors are elected by shareholder vote, according to the housing company's certificate of incorporation and bylaws. A director sits on the board with other directors in order to act in the best interest of the housing company. The board of directors establishes policy and allows management to carry out these policies. The board should set policy for the housing company, monitor the financial health of the cooperative, monitor the physical condition of the property, review management operations, and manage conflicts of interest. While the board establishes and adopts policy for the housing company, it allows the managing agent to carry out those policies. The board does not concern itself with the details of day-to-day management. It maintains a line of separation between the functions of the board and those of management. The board should ensure that management is operating in accordance with the policy established by the board and in accordance with governing documents, the private housing finance laws, and regulations. If management is not doing this, the board should discuss their expectations and deficient issues with management before automatically seeking new management. To ensure financial viability, the board must submit a budget to DHCR every 2 years. If the budget so requires, the board must vote to increase the carrying charges of the housing company to a level high enough to sustain the financial needs of the housing company.
Fiduciary responsibilities of board members is the final topic in this webinar. What is a fiduciary? Fiduciaries put aside personal interests, especially financial considerations, and act in the best interests of the corporation and all its shareholders, not in their own personal interest or that of another individual shareholder or small groups of shareholders. Board members are fiduciaries for the cooperative. Fiduciary responsibilities include, but are not limited to, following established board policy, following the corporation's governing documents, purpose, and function, maintaining confidentiality, securing written board approval by DHCR and by the board by resolution for contracts and financial transactions, refraining from benefiting or achieving personal gain from the corporation's assets or transactions. Identity of interest. This is closely related to the board's fiduciary responsibilities. It is crucial that board members be aware of laws and regulations regarding identity or conflict of interest, found both in DHCR regulations and the Business Corporation Law. Identity of interest arises when a board member takes some action as a board member which also benefits his or her own financial or other interest or that of a family member. Violation of these prohibitions may have serious consequences, including removal from the board, civil penalties, i.e. fines, or, in extreme cases, criminal penalties, i.e. fines and or jail. Thank you for viewing this webinar. We hope that you have learned the basics of being a board member of a Mitchell-Lama housing company and have a better understanding of your responsibilities.
For further information regarding board member responsibilities, please contact your housing company attorney.
And for more information about Mitchell-Lama tenant and shareholder information, application information, or Mitchell-Lama related memos and forms, please visit hcr.ny.gov/ml.